Hey, this is Carrie from Temp Coffee Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to the show. To really help us out, please subscribe to our show so you can get the latest episodes. Also, if you could rate our show and let us know how we're doing, we would really appreciate it. So let's move on to our episode. Hello and welcome to another podcast of Temp Coffee Podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Elliott, and
I'm the other guy, Tim Howard. Thank you, everybody, for listening this week.
Before we dive into this really exciting episode, we wanted to give a shout out to Brandon, the owner of Primo Roasting Equipment. Thank you so much, Brandon, for sponsoring the show. And if you're in the market for looking for a new coffee roaster, reach out to Primo. They can do customizations and they can find a solution to your roasting needs. Their roasters are manufactured here in Southern California in the States, and parts are accessible. Shout out to Primo Roasting Equipment. You can check out their website at www.primoroastingequipment.com.
Hey, Brandon. I get the joy of introducing our special guest today. Coming to us with one of the more popular Instagram feeds with 8,000 followers. Gio, welcome to our talk.
Hey, what's going on? How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, we're super excited that you're here. I'm just like, I just want to do the Wayne's World, like, we're not worthy. I'm just I'm such a fangirl. I'm not gonna lie. I'm so stoked. I would love to. I love Coffee Feed and seeing what you have been doing over the past couple of years. It's been really awesome to really highlight a lot of the coffee shops that are happening in Portland and giving them a platform so other people can learn about them. And you have such an amazing following there. Can you kind of tell us what was the inspiration about Coffee Feed and how did you take Coffee Feed and grow it to what it is today?
Yeah, so again, I appreciate you both having me on. When I think about Coffee Feed, it started from seeing a need and also boredom as well. If I look back at how I started my coffee journey, I drank it very early in my life. You know, my father is Sicilian, so I was, brewing up espresso early in the mornings, and I would take a little sip before I would give it to him. So the espresso was in my veins early, but I then, fell into Starbucks, and I would go there constantly because they were just 2 blocks away. There was a barista I had a crush on, and I would make an excuse to go see her. She was much wiser than me. She was older than me, way out of my league. But me in high school, I'm like, I want a mocha frappuccino right now. So that got me addicted to coffee. And then that carried over to college, and then I eventually started drinking a little more specialty coffee once I graduated from college. I moved up from San Francisco, California. That is where I'm from, born and raised. And I came up to Portland in 2015. Still drinking Starbucks, but kind of, putting my big toe into the specialty coffee shops that was around here in Portland. Heard a lot about it. So I wanted to kind of venture out and see what other shops were around the city of Portland. Felt it'd be a good way to kind of familiarize myself with the city. I moved up here to start working at Nike in early 2015 or summer 2015, and I had a contract to work with them. My contract expired initially, so I was unemployed for a few months. Saw myself in a lot of different coffee shops looking for jobs on my laptop, and thought it would be a good idea to create an Instagram where you can kind of see what coffee shops are out there. Like if someone like myself is new to a city or just wanted to know more about coffee shops, they can just go to this Instagram. It could be a feed of coffee shops. I thought something like that would have already existed, but it didn't. I created the Instagram account in February of 2017, so I'm actually coming up on my 5-year anniversary.
Hey, congratulations.
Wow,
that's fantastic.
5 years.
Yeah. That puts you cutting edge.
Trying. And that was kind of like the main reason why I started. It was boredom, and then also like just as creating a service for people around Portland, or just all over the world too. another reason why I wanted to do it is because I wanted to get into marketing at Nike, and I needed a non-Nike or a different platform that could showcase that I'm able to do digital marketing stuff like creating assets and driving engagement and a call to action to send people to coffee shops. Like, I killed multiple birds with one stone by creating Coffee Feed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and with that, you also got a lot of opportunities within the coffee industry to kind of work. Not only you were demonstrating your marketing skills, doing the call of actions, you were highlighting all these different awesome shops, and you had opportunities to write articles for different media outlets and blogging and what have you. So, I mean, did you ever think that those opportunities would ever arise just starting that?
No. I had no idea. I was just taking pictures using my phone and going to coffee shops. I mean, it gave me a good reason to drink as much coffee as I wanted, or my body can take, rather. And then...
yeah, we all know about that.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I worked with a good friend of mine, Ian Williams, owner of Desk.Coffee. We worked on an event together during Sneaker Week, which is an event that takes place here in Portland. And then one of the owners of Sprudge, the coffee media organization, and Jordan said, hey, like, been seeing some of the work that you've been doing. Would you like to do an Instagram takeover for Sprudge for the city of Portland, where you just, 1 to 2 posts a day for about five days, and then just show the world what Portland coffee looks like? And I'm like, sure. And then from there, I was able to continue to work with them, write articles from different shops around Portland, and also do coffee takeovers in other cities I was in.
Okay, so be prepared. We're going to ask you about your favorites. That's coming up. I guarantee it. Yeah, okay.
Twist, I'm not going to give you one. I'm going to
fair enough. Well,
5.
So a couple of things. I am also from San Francisco.
Yeah.
I actually apprenticed with Artie Spinelli back then. Hello, Artie.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been a while. So we grew up out in the avenues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just down at Andy Town. Hello, Andy Town. Love those guys.
Yeah, they have a location near the beach.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep, that's 2 blocks away from where I was born. Ouch.
Really?
Yeah, that's going a long way back. Yeah, I grew up. Then I did my growing up in Marin. So yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I went to school in the Avenues. My middle school was on 30th and Gary.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, small world. Skateboard town.
Yeah. Really, all those hills. And then I went to elementary school off of 36th and Anza.
Wow.
And then I was a little bit out of the Avenues. I lived off of Masonic and Fulton.
All right, so I was in the middle of the Castro for about 8 years. I lived in Outer Mission, Dolores Park for about 5 years.
It's an expensive area now.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it, right? Yeah. However, you can still find a decent coffee out there.
You absolutely can. There are a lot of quality coffee shops in San Francisco, that's for sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. I think for me personally, what I get in Portland stands up without anybody. First of all, let me start with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's just because you and I happen to be here roasting. Yeah. Although that might be part of it. I'm just saying.
Well, honestly, like, coming up and learning about the specialty coffee scene, like here in Portland, it is so magical. I honestly think that specialty coffee scene, anybody can come at me, bro, what I'm about to say, but I feel like the specialty coffee scene is more blown up than what it is in Seattle.
I don't think you're going to get any disagreement from this particular party, because personally I've been here a long time and I've always found support. People have always been great here. Kind of support we get here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, just the quality of coffee, and as far as how small the city is, I think like it's, you can walk in, several blocks and come across 2, 3, 4 coffee shops that are quality and that could stand in any other city. I was just in LA this past weekend, and a lot of great coffee shops in LA as well. Obviously a little bit more spread out because, Los Angeles is a very large area, right? So
yeah.
San Francisco, I would say as well, a lot of very, very good coffee shops. But
I have to ask, so you've been to most of the coffee shops in the Portland metro area, and most of the people who are listening to us are actually in Portland. Mm-hmm. Do you have a nondescript top 5 that you can give to it? And it doesn't have to be for the coffee. Oh, if anyone can see this, there's hesitation there. You know what? You do not need to answer this question.
I can name A few.
Okay, well, we'll give shout outs to all those people to support them. So we'll take it that way.
Okay, so Dead Stock Coffee / Concourse Coffee.
Oh.
So that's one of my favorites. Or Dead Stock Coffee, Concourse Coffee, their new shop.
Hey, all Concourse.
I go to Barista almost every day because I live 2 blocks away from there.
Which location? No, don't answer. Don't. It's okay.
It's fine. Good coffee.
Yeah, that's a nice shop in Southeast, y'all. You ever get a chance to go in? That's a great place to go.
I go to the one a lot in Slabtown. They'll basically open up their headquarters out in Troutdale, which is pretty dope. La Perlita. Shout out to Reforma Roasters.
Oh yeah, that's a great place. Mm-hmm. Wow, I forgot that place was there.
Yep.
Wow, that's super list.
I know. I'm taking it all in because now I've got to make a list and go into Portland and check out these shops. I haven't ventured much into Portland, so I have to go and check it out.
Well,
yeah. Push Pull Coffee, another favorite of mine. I see myself going to Nosa Familia a lot too, just because it's a couple blocks away as well. Nice people over there.
Yeah, great people in Nosa. They donate more coffee to Oregon Food Bank than any other of the coffee roasters.
Really?
Super nice guys over there. Yeah, super nice.
Cathedral Coffee, I go there a lot. They have really good cinnamon rolls.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Hello, Cathedral. We miss you.
I'm just a creature of habit. I tend to go to places that I always go, and there's so many coffee shops. So many have been opening up. Those are like some of the. I know I'm missing more too. Those are just the ones that just popped in my head.
No, that's great. That's what I was looking for. If I may, what do you see that are the upcoming great trends that are happening in specialty coffee? What do you see happening out there?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
You see, I was ready for you.
Well, what about what you have been noticing on like Instagram and TikTok?
Yeah.
Like all those things. I know we were kind of touching base about it before we actually recorded.
So I noticed a lot. So I think most importantly, I wouldn't say it's ultimately, people want to go where they feel welcomed. People want to go where they see something that is similar to what they may have had experiencing through maybe larger chain coffee shops, right? So specialty drinks will be a good way to bring people in, right? So if we're coming out of holiday season, I'm a huge proponent of peppermint mocha as the coffee drink, right? So I love peppermint mochas. I think it should be a 365 proposition where it needs to be on the menu, year round. Other people feel the same way about anything pumpkin related or what have you.
But, quick background. We have been laughing at pumpkin spice for months and months. But I have to agree with you with the peppermint mocha. I absolutely am on board with you.
Yeah. I think, similar to when we talk about social media and trends, due to the pandemic, people are getting creative at home. They are creating the drinks that they see at coffee shops. They are creating the drinks that they see among other people on social media, right? And you kind of see the parallels that are on social media and how it comes to life in real life. So when they visit coffee shops, they're like, hey, I saw this on TikTok. Can you make this? Can you have something similar to what I've experienced or I've had at this place or a Starbucks and whatnot? That was a very long-winded roundabout answer to that question. I'm not
No, that's awesome. It's absolutely great. Kind of what I was hoping for, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so no worries. No worries.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Kind of touching into, seeing people because of the pandemic and stuff like that, people were brewing more coffee at home. With your experience knowing a lot of these coffee shops and with the Portland coffee scene, what have you observed and what changes have you seen, especially in Portland, and how the cafes were affected and what they're doing to pivoting?
Yeah, so seen a lot. A lot of shops have closed down, but a lot of shops have opened too. I'm not sure if it's people who are taking the plunge, like, hey, like, I don't like my full-time job. I want to get into coffee. I want to do something that I'm passionate about. I think that's something that has been seen a little bit, and I would say, like, is more of a surprise on my end, is the amount of coffee shops that are opening. In 2022, there's going to be even more coffee shops opening in Portland, right? So that was one thing. I think one of the biggest things that I saw, well, two things. People, like, the demand for coffee is not going anywhere. It's just a matter of where they're gonna go to fulfill their coffee consumption. They're gonna take matters in their own hands. They're gonna brew their own coffee at the house. They're going to work back with roasters, and they're gonna follow TikToks to see, hey, like, this is how I create coffee. There's been a number of people who are well entrenched in the coffee industry that are making home videos for you to enjoy your coffee at the house. While there's other people who are like, hey, like, not to say like they're not like experienced or they're not authentic in the coffee industry, but you have people who are teaching you how to make specialty coffee. You also have people who are teaching you how to make coffee from like Starbucks or Dutch Brothers or wherever. Hey, you want to have a duplicate recipe to a caramel macchiato? Like, follow this. So there's been a lot of that. One of the biggest things that I've seen things that I guess like overarching theme is just when it comes to pivoting for those coffee shops in Portland and all over the country as well, the treatment of baristas and how there has been a lot of like, this is like an overall like service industry conversation, but the mistreatment of baristas and how there are some coffee shops that go above and beyond to treat their baristas well. And there are a lot of coffee shops, not just here in Portland, but all over the country that do not treat their baristas well. All that stuff came to light. Those coffee shop owners who had issues and who were abusing their employees, that stuff came to light as well because they didn't care about their health, or they didn't care about the mental health or the physical health or what have you. Like, it's during a pandemic, right? So when I look at organizations like GoFundMe, who are creating virtual tip jars for baristas, I mean, that is due to the result of what was being seen as far as how baristas are treated. They are forced to come in and make coffee for people who don't value their health. And that is something I've seen a lot as well, and that's created a larger conversation of how we need to treat everyone better, first of all. It's like, most specifically, those in the service industry, and being that we're in the coffee industry, like those who are in the coffee industry as well. As far as everything else, I mean, coffee shops have adapted, they've pivoted, they've turned their shops into a walk-up window, a drive-through, whatever they needed to do to make sure that they are welcoming those to come in their shop.
Yeah.
That's we have several conversations a week about where we can go with the cooperative we want put together specifically as a roasting cooperative. But I couldn't agree more. I mean, we see people all the time. I've been lucky enough this last year to hire 2 employees, but I'm not going to pay them minimum wage. I'm going to make sure they get what they need. By the way, hello, Bowie, and hello, Sharia. Thank you both. But I want to make sure that when I'm looking for people, that I can provide to them a wage that's going to pay their bills. Like, that's the whole basis on my hiring people, is being able to afford that.
Yeah, Gio, you nailed a lot of topics on the head. And, I was a former barista, store manager, assistant manager, working in a Starbucks on and off for 4 years. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, I have seen the ugly. As a general blanket of service industry, whether you do work at Pete's, like a major chain, or you work for an independent shop, absolutely. You do see a wave of the mistreatment of a lot of people, especially the baristas. I think GoFundMe is amazing organization. They helped out a lot of the baristas when Hurricane Ida came through and doing that virtual tip jar. Really amazing organization. And it's true because, there's a company or a corporation or like an individual small business owner that, says, well, the customer comes first. It's that old mentality of the customer's always right mentality, which also gives the opportunity to, well, no matter how much Karen yells at you or puts you down, you got to take care of Karen. And we have been seeing that shift and that change, and especially on social media. You have people that are filming people who are just having the hugest fits ever online, and it's definitely changing for sure. And I've been in those positions where I would have someone order like a medium size, half calf, half packet Splenda latte with non-fat milk, light foam, and it has to be at 165 degrees. And I had a customer who ordered a drink like that, and they would personally whip out a thermometer and put it in their cup to make sure that it was at 165 degrees. Yeah. True story. And then the neighborhood at that time, the neighborhood I was working at is near a place called Palos Verdes, and that's where a lot of the celebrities are because it's right there. It's a coastal city, and yeah, it was nasty. People are just ruthless and nasty. So I totally understand, and I think there's definitely got to be a shift of these changes that need to be made.
Because I'm sorry, but
no, please go right ahead.
There are at coffee shops. I mean, there are really two ways to look at it, specifically at this point, and this is really like a microscope is on it at this point. You know, since we're in the middle of a pandemic still. Coffee shops will either fire employees who do not cater to those type of employees, or coffee shops will fire customers, and they will fire customers by saying, hey, you are not going to talk to our employees like that, or you need to be vaccinated for you to drink coffee in our shop, or you need to respect those who are serving you your coffee. And there are a lot of coffee shops that will still fire their employees for not taking care of these types of customers who are being extremely disrespectful, or they will still fire employees who are not being taken care of, whether it's through health insurance or through just overall mistreatment of, working behind bar or working on bar while someone is coming in sick or they're just letting anybody in. I mean, the line has already been drawn. Now it's a matter of which line do you want to be on. You can't really play in that gray space anymore because people can die, especially if you are kind of still in that zone.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right about that. Business owners have a choice, and they have to take a step back and kind of take a look at the situation that's happening. And it's like, in one way, employee performance does play a factor on certain things, but speaking up, vocalizing about the mistreatment that they had, they should not get punished for that. That business owners need to fire customers. Exactly what you said.
So I have worked on both sides of that argument. I've been the employee and I've been the manager for that. One of the things that I have decided for my own business is that I'm going to stand as an example of the right kind of boss doing the right kind of things. Now, I'm lucky because I specialize in taking that stress down, and I don't have a shop, right? Like what I'm doing is I'm trying to provide people an answer at home to keep them home safe. That's always been my take. It's always going to be the way it is. But I will not accept anybody abusing my employees or me. Respect the space, respect the people. You don't have respect, you can drink someone else's coffee.
Yeah.
That's okay.
100% on that.
You make your own choice.
I'm 100% on board with you.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm in a room with people that completely agree with me. We've all been hourly wage. We've all had that.
Yeah, I mean, there are because people, and I think just even from like my work for my full time job, we do insight sessions. We talk to Gen Z and the younger audiences in general, and what we see more and more and more that people want to know what companies stand for before they buy their product or they do business with them. They want to know what their thoughts are with social issues. They want to know if they're sustainable. They want to know a lot of things about companies that they are involved with because they don't want to be affiliated or purchase product from a company and that company gets outed for doing something bogus or lame and
that's
like illegal.
I don't think in the model that Carrie and I have, I don't want to speak for you, Carrie. I'm going to speak for myself. In the model that I have, what I want to do is provide a great cup of coffee, have people enjoy it, find a little kumbaya in the world, and see if we can just get along. I mean, right now is the wrong time to be arguing. Right now is the wrong time to, expect that something is owed to you. But at the very least, we can respect each other, and that's all I ever try to do. That's it. I expect that same kind of treatment with my employees to customers. Respect is all important, but I will not accept my employees being abused for no reason and for someone else's entertainment. I will not accept that.
It's a zero tolerance policy.
It is a zero tolerance policy.
Yeah, and I think just like, again, like the pandemic has brought everything to light, right? And just as much as people want to go back to their old routine and try to make things as normal and as routine as possible pre-pandemic, from like making coffee and getting coffee, like they also want to go back to the behavior that was deemed as somewhat acceptable in the service industry, or when working back with baristas and going to coffee shops and demanding that their drink is at 165 and not a degree hotter or cooler. Like, no, like it's not an acceptable form of treatment at all.
I do like my drink at 165, but I'm not going to put a thermometer in my drink.
Okay, so like, I know there's a lot of like, I know like, everyone who drinks coffee, like a lot, I think that you have like the things that may be like a pet peeve, right? Like some people like, hey, like I want it to be a specific temperature. Me personally, it's super, super, super small, but like when I go to a coffee shop, I get sometimes annoyed like when the barista, if they do like latte art, they automatically put the cap on the drink and then they slide it down the counter. They're like, all right, here you go. And I'm like, I was going to take a picture, I'm like, you don't have to necessarily, and I get it. Like sometimes you're in a rush.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, hey, like this
you can't cover that up.
It's like, do you know who I am? Do you know my Instagram page?
And I never would pull that card ever. And I would never say, hey, listen, I'm going to take a picture of this, right? But there's some times where like, I maybe be visiting a new shop that I've never been to, or I'm out of town and I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a picture of this coffee cup.
And then immediately...
And then there's a couple of shops, okay, like some coffee, like there's some coffee shops that you go into and they just don't want to be there. And I get it, like you had a rough day, like no worries. Not every coffee shop's perfect, but there are some times where I'm excited to go to this coffee shop and they don't even try. They're like, they're checked out. They're like, all right, here you go. And it's just like a light brown, like just liquid in your cup. There's no foam. There's no art. And I'm not saying it's required by any means, but they're just like,
take pride in the drink.
I'll just take a picture of the interior or something of the coffee shop and they just go live with that.
So does that mean that zero tolerance cafes are on the way out?
I don't think so.
The first time I ever had a zero tolerance cafe, I was on a very long motorcycle ride. The name of the shop shall be silent. I'm not going to mention them. But when I walked in and I really just wanted a house coffee and I took a sip and honestly it was bitter and wasn't pleasant and wanted to put something in so I didn't have to throw the cup away, and they wouldn't give me milk. Now, here's the thing. I don't usually put milk in my coffee. I prefer black coffee, always have. But the idea that they wouldn't even allow me to put milk in my coffee was ridiculous.
That's interesting. I think that if you're serving coffee, someone's going to go in there and buy coffee. If you're serving, like, what's bitter to you might be exactly what someone else wants. So I think those shops are always going to... I think those shops are always going to be around. I'm not sure how long they're going to survive, but I still think like even like with everything that like we've even touched on and we've covered, that there's always going to be like those shops will still manage to stick around just because people aren't aware of what's going on or they're comfortable with what's going on because they are still providing a service to them in some way.
Tim and I have touched base about that. Like what I've noticed being in the coffee industry and being an owner of a coffee roasting company, like for me, trying to reach out and talk to business owners that like trying to look for potential wholesale clients, right? Mm-hmm. There's a very interesting dynamic with that because you have the drive-through coffee shops and you have like the walk-in specialty shop cafes. There is a huge major difference. What I've noticed that not all, but most drive-through espresso shops, independent drive-through espresso, the coffee quality, you could tell a huge difference with that because for them, they use a lower quality type of coffee, not so much really specialty grade, where you walk into more of a high-end cafe that's going to probably use coffee from a specialty coffee roasting company. And some people don't notice the difference until you really dive into learning about coffee, whether it's roasting or even learning how to make coffee at home. There's such a huge difference with that. And I can, for myself, I guess because my palate is so refined, that I could clearly tell the difference between the quality of the coffee.
I think people who do drive-thrus, generally speaking, are looking... This is a generalization. It's not necessarily accurate. I have a number of my own customers that expect a higher quality of coffee, and that's what I supply to them. Drive-thrus as well. I'm very lucky to be working with some great people in terms of drive-thrus. But the people who go out and buy 5-pound shiny silver bags from large box stores don't generally care about the quality of the coffee that's going to go out to their customer. And I see that more in drive-thrus. I do.
So I think it kind of goes back to, I mean, coffee is subjective. I mean, like, it really just depends on who the consumer is, because it's like when you ask someone, hey, what's your definition of strong coffee? Is it something that just tastes bitter, or is it something that makes you feel like you consume way more caffeine? Like, what is it? Like, what's the definition of, oh, like, I like my coffee strong? What do you mean by that? And I think, and it's kind of like, what's your definition of good coffee? Does it actually taste good, or good coffee is, or quality coffee? Or quality coffee is something that just tastes good. Quality coffee is something that I can detect notes. Like, the fact that there are so many different answers, there will always be a wide spectrum of coffee. What's good coffee? What's quality coffee?
Everybody making coffee has the right to make that coffee. I certainly agree with that. But my observation is that if the price of the coffee comes before the quality of the coffee, and I've had that conversation, I don't know how many times in my life. I don't necessarily want to provide a coffee to them. That's not my target. I've said this forever. I want to give people coffee that's going to please them. Mm-hmm. If I'm selling to an individual, I want to give them a coffee they didn't expect. That's the entire focus of what I'm trying to accomplish.
Tim and I are on board on so many different levels. That's why we're so good at our podcast. Yeah, there is a lot of business owners that are more focused on the dollar, the price amount of how much that coffee costs versus how that coffee is roasted and what the quality is on that. But like you said, everybody's different. At first, when I know for me, I don't mean to brag about myself here.
No, you're allowed to brag about yourself.
I mean, it's interesting that you brought that up, because from my point of view, starting up a brand new coffee roasting company, I was a little cocky. I was like, everybody should drink my coffee black. Don't put any milk or sugar because my coffee is the greatest. And I got a little cocky about that. But as I met people like at farmers markets and different other events, I kind of humbled myself and realized, like, not everybody's going to drink their coffee black. They're going to add milk. They're going to add sugar. And for all I know, if they did put in a packet of sugar or some milk, it's probably going to enhance the profile of the coffee anyway. Yeah. So for me, I had to kind of buckle back. And I've even noticed on social media and talking with other people too, that they were kind of on... They're like that level where I used to be. And it's like, everybody's different. Everybody's palate's different. And I've had customers come in and buy coffee that on the bag, I can describe the flavors of how it was cupped. And I could say, you could taste red berries, chocolate, vanilla. And some people won't get the red berries or vanilla.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's palate's different. And the whole common theme is that if everybody enjoys a good cup of coffee, it's all good.
It is. And I think something that what I've learned most about, well, I learned a lot while, you know, immersing myself in the coffee industry as, I guess, being coffee adjacent from, you know, just being, I mean, I'm just really just a glorified consumer that just takes pictures and writes articles about it. But
wait a minute, glorified consumer?
That's really.
I hate to say this, my friend, but if we wanted to go out and find a glorified consumer, we probably would have just stepped out on the street.
Nah.
You know, come on now.
But you know, I appreciate that. But it also, but seriously though, I mean, so kind of like what you mentioned about like, yo, like you should just drink my coffee black and it'll be good. People just don't want to be told what to do when consuming coffee.
Right.
Like, don't tell me how to drink my coffee. Like, I like drinking my coffee with a gallon of creamer from wherever, or I like to put in a full cup of sugar. And I think it kind of goes to like the root of what some issues that specialty coffee community has. And it's people are gun shy of kind of going into coffee shops because they don't want to look stupid. Like, they don't want to not be able to taste the tasting notes. Like, hey, like, you're gonna get a hint of stone fruit, peach, maybe a little cherry, and some dark chocolate. And if you go in there, you're like, I just taste coffee. Now, like, as a consumer, am I ignorant because I don't know what I'm tasting? Coffee shops say, like, hey, when you taste this, you're gonna taste this, this, and this. If I'm the consumer and I don't taste that, I'm like, all right, well, clearly, like, I either don't have a refined palate at all, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just going to go back to what I'm used to, so where I don't feel like I'm being silently judged when I'm going into a specialty coffee shop and looking at the menu. And I think kind of like to what your point is, or what you made a little earlier, is that people want flexibility when it comes to their coffee. Like, hey, like, you can have this, you know, just straight up, just get just regular drip, or, you know, if you want to have a little latte, you want to go drip and add a little creamer, like, this is what I found is better. I just think consumers don't want to be put in a box, but also feel like consumers don't want to feel ignorant and kind of feel blindsided when they go to a coffee shop. And I think that it kind of like toes the line of like sommeliers and like in the wine industry, like, yeah, like, oh, like this is from like 1980. Like I don't drink, so I don't know anything about that. But like, it's like you just like it's like I feel like just consumers don't want to have to know so much about the coffee industry and just everything around it, just so they can actually like understand what's a good quality cup versus what isn't.
I'll tell you what, more than anything, when I'm talking to people, the number one thing that I hear is not a question about the coffee. The number one thing I hear is, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert, right? And the reality is that those people are gun shy, that they've gone to shops and, you know, they've had the sommelier experience. The reality is that we can sommelier. We can do that. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's the way you introduce a coffee. Coffee is the lubricant that brings people together, right?
Yep.
And that's always been my theory on this. I've said this to many people. If you know the difference between you like it and you don't like it, you are an expert. In your own mind, you know what's right. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly it.
Yeah, you definitely nailed that on the head. And I think really what it boils down to, whether you like the coffee or not, if you taste the stone fruit or the snozberries in your coffee, you know, it's
like snozberries.
Yeah, the snozberries taste like snozberries. What it really boils down to, I think, is attracting people to say, okay, you like the coffee, maybe you don't taste the vanilla or the stone fruit, whatever the case may be, but you enjoy it. Like you were saying, you could dump all the creamer and all the sugar you want. At the end of the day, the consumer is coming to me, is going to Tim or any other coffee roaster to buy the beans directly from them because they want to support a local business. They want to support a small business. Instead of getting their coffee at Safeway or the grocery stores, they make a special trip out they can go to the local grocery chains that have a lot of the specialty coffees, and they come directly to the roastery. They come to support me my passion, my dream. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the hell you put in your coffee, whatever the hell you taste, you're supporting me, you're supporting my family, and that's what it boils down to.
I think the same thing's true, and you bring up a good point. The subjectivity should be welcomed. It should be brought in. It should be welcomed.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like, it's like people want to feel comfortable with telling you how they want to consume their coffee. Like, I think a lot of times where, you know, a casual consumer going to a specialty coffee shop, like, hey, never been here before. I usually get this at Starbucks, or I usually get this as Pete's. I usually get this at, you know, Coffee Bean or wherever. You have something similar. And at that moment, a coffee shop has a great opportunity to make a customer for life and making them feel comfortable about somebody being vulnerable and saying, hey, I don't know what to order at your shop. Can you help me identify what's something similar? So many coffee shops that love that opportunity to make the consumer feel stupid by saying, hey, like, actually, like, we're actually a refined coffee shop. You know, we have some of the nicest beans. And here we're going to tell you, this is my opportunity to, you know, be on a pedestal and educate you. And it's such an awful thing to bring up, but it happens so often, and it's sad. And the shops that do so well is the one that welcome you in.
Yes.
Like, and make you feel good about, hey, like, it's cool. Like, you don't have to know everything about coffee. You don't need to know where this coffee was sourced from.
Yes.
If you want to drink it a specific way, like, we got you. Just
you want to drink that hanging upside down from the ceiling?
Yeah. Exactly. Like, yeah, you need to sit this cup at room temperature for 45 minutes before consuming.
No.
You need, like, when you grind it at home, it needs to be the width needs to be something like 0.04 centimeters, or it's not going to taste good. You're gonna over extract it. It'll taste really bitter. Like, listen, like, this does not have to be, coffee does not have to be complicated, but we tend to make it complicated just so we can feel like we're one-upping each other within the community, and we are, you know, more knowledgeable, or we are, you know, the best thing in the coffee industry in our little town.
Yeah, I have seen that through I've seen certain people be like that within the specialty coffee scene. I agree with you. I can't tell you how many times that I can count on my own hand how many people have come in and asked me, hey, I have a French press. I have a Mr. Coffee, but my coffee is coming out this way. What do you suggest? My job, not only as a business owner, but as a roaster, someone who, they're coming to me because I'm a coffee expert in their eyes. I don't think I'm a coffee expert by no means, but I try my best, and I give them what I suggest. Okay, well, if your French press is tasting bitter, have you heard of the bloom? And I'm like, no, what's the bloom? And I explained to them that. And I did this once when a customer came in because they were saying that their French press was terrible and bitter. And we had a French press. I got some coffee. I showed them bloom. I showed them how to, with the grind and the brew ratio. And it made a huge difference. They were just like, oh my God, like, this is great. And they said, thank you very much. And they gave me $2 for a cup of coffee and walked out the door without buying beans. Was I upset? Nah. But, you know, at the end of the day, I gave someone education on how to brew the best cup of coffee.
You never know who you're going to deal with, and you always want to educate if they want to be educated.
Yeah.
Right? That's
100%. I mean, like, you got to make a customer for life, or
you can make sure they never come back.
Ever come back again. I mean, like,
that's the best advice I've ever heard in my life. Gio, seriously, Gio, that's like the best advice I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I mean, like, because, like, you have, like, I mean, everyone has their own, like, their mission statement, their why as to why they started their company, their shop, their roaster, whatever. You have the opportunity, like, to share your why with a customer. You have the opportunity to allow customers to understand more about you and to buy into you, and to be involved in your community and to what you're building with your roaster or your shop or your brand as a whole. And a lot of shops shoot themselves in the foot because they want to be perceived as extremely educated in the field, to where they are not necessarily limiting, but they are welcoming a specific type of consumer.
Yes.
Like a refined consumer in their shop. Like if it's like, you know, you get that stereotypical like coffee shop that's like very minimalist vibes. There's 4 things on the menu.
And no creamer on the stand.
Cream.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, and this isn't like any, I'm not like subtly saying it's any shop here in Portland by any means, but like just imagine that shop, you know.
Oh, we all know who those people are.
You know, imagine that shop in your mind where it's like very minimalist, it's very cold, literally and figuratively. Their menu has like 4 or 5 items max, and it has a full breakdown of the espresso that they're providing, and alternative milks are like $3 extra because they want you to deter from consuming it. I mean, there's just, as much as they drive customers away, they will always have customers, just because there's also that kind of sense of entitlement and that sense of cockiness within the coffee consumer community as well. Like, I remember vividly when I was working at Nike, it was a coworker of mine brought in coffee from Sterling Coffee Roasters here locally. They have a shop out in Northwest Portland. Great people at Sterling Coffee.
Yeah, great coffee at Sterling too.
Great coffee as well. Someone brings in a bag from Sterling, and this is like a few years ago. And so I had coffee feed, like I was writing for Sprudge and I did all that stuff. So I'm like, hey, where's your coffee from? Oh, and of course, this dude had glasses, so he like kind of adjusts his glasses, looks at me, says, oh, it's an Ethiopian from Sterling. I'm like, okay, guy. He didn't know that I just wrote an article about Sterling's new coffee shop on Northwest 21st for one of the world's largest coffee media organizations. But it's stuff like that, right? Like, dog, like, just tell me where your coffee was from.
Did he tell you if it was like honey processed or natural processed?
He didn't tell me any of that stuff. He just went to the break room, took his little mini French press, and was just talking to him like, my G, like, don't do that. Like, I know we're in Portland, you know, I know I don't look like the average person that would go to a coffee shop, just of the demographic breakdown here in Portland, but don't do that.
Let's see if I can get this. Let's see if I can get this right. It's Ethiopia from Sterling.
It's Ethiopia from
Sterling. Yeah.
Ethiopia from Sterling.
How dare you peasant, come to me and dare ask me such a question?
Oh, man.
Like, where I get my coffee from. Now go back to Safeway and Trader Joe's and Costco and get that bag that's been sitting there for the last 3 months and make your whatever coffee at the house.
I make my own cortado.
Yeah, I like
cortado.
So I released the article for Sterling not too long after that, because it was really around the same time. That same guy, the Oregon Coffee Board used to meet like once a month on Thursdays, and I would go there all the time because I'm friends with people within the Oregon Coffee Board. Like, I interact with them on social media, and this guy just randomly shows up and is super nice at that point, because he's like, oh, like, maybe this person is a little bit more established within the coffee community. And he was complimenting my shoes. Like, I will never forget that. It's just like,
by the way, I complimented your shoes before we got talking.
I appreciate that.
I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm staring at your shoes right now. I mean, yeah. I'm not a shoe person, but that looks really nice. But not to go off topic, but I'm sure when this person saw you, they were just like, oh.
So he doesn't just go to Starbucks and get a white mocha, or go down to one of the cafes here on campus at Nike.
Get an Annihilator from Dutch Bros.
Oh, man.
Or you just get like the little bottled Starbucks drinks that you get at like a Target or like at, Plaid Pantry or whatever.
By the way, give a little resume. My wife was at Nike for 15 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I spent a good amount of time in at Nike. I would like to offer Gio shout-out opportunity.
Yeah.
I think it's about that time. So we generally end the show with 2 shout-outs. Feel free. Doesn't have to be coffee. Give us a mention of 2 people you want to talk to or 2 groups you want to mention.
Wow. You are putting me on the spot.
Oh, well, only temporarily, and I have a big cheesy smile on my face, so.
Okay, here we go. All right, so the first shout out go to my family back in San Francisco. My parents for allowing me, specifically my parents for allowing me to drink coffee at an early age. They could have knocked the cup out of my hand, but instead they were allowing me to drink shots of espresso after dinner at the tender age of 10 years old. And ever since then, I've been consuming coffee ever since.
Yeah, God bless the parents.
And for the second one, at work, this is not coffee related.
No, it's all good.
I lead a program called Game Growers, and we work with 31 different NBA and WNBA teams to grow participation in sport for 7th and 8th grade girls.
Fantastic.
Cool.
So that 13 to 14-year-old range for girls, there's a 50% drop-off for participation in sport. A few years ago, a couple of my colleagues started a program where they look to partner with 7th and 8th graders to inspire and to grow participation in sport for girls in partnership with NBA and WNBA teams in their specific markets. So I had the pleasure of leading that program this year, and we just kicked off season 3 of Game Growers. So shout out to the NBA and WNBA and the 31 teams that we're working with and the 6th and 7th graders that they have tapped for their program this year.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
Yeah. Carrie, go ahead. You jump in there. What's your 2?
Let's see. I wanted to give a shout out to Livelihood Northwest, or a nonprofit that is supporting small business owners like myself. So they're supporting like women-owned, BIPOC, and the LGBTQA plus business owners with support and giving business advice. Last week was pretty hard week for me as far as trying to figure out what to do with the business, because I've been definitely feeling the effects of it. Trying to run a roastery and a cafe on top of that. It's been totally a struggle. But Erin was one of the business advisors who I was talking to, and she gave me some really good, insightful stuff that I shared with you about trying to pivot or shift my business. And I've been feeling pretty good about it. So shout out to Livelihood Northwest for having amazing people like Erin on their corner to help out business owners like myself. A shout out to my wholesale clients for supporting me and still buying coffee from Elliott and Murray. I truly believe that their success is my success, and it goes both ways, right? Because I want to bring good quality coffee to their business that their customers can enjoy. It's an extension. So shout out to my wholesale clients, and also, again, a shout out to my customers who've been supporting me and will continue to support Elliott and Murray.
That's awesome. I feel a little inspiration. So I want to give a shout out to Soccer Chance Academy, the U16, U14, and U12 teams. We have been lucky enough to sell coffee and donate a $5 per bag coffee to them. We managed to send the U16 team to a big-time tournament in Texas. They won their first 2 games. How about that?
Hey.
So, Soccer Chance Academy, shout out to you guys. We love you guys. Can't wait to send more girls down there, for sure. And I really want to give a shout out to my wife, who was nice enough to invite me to go down and spend a couple extra days from her. My wife took a position with a large electric car manufacturer, now working down there, so I get to go down and visit with her. Yeah, we're about 20 minutes north of the Niners home stadium.
Yeah.
So, real close.
Nice.
But to bring in my Jerry Rice jersey.
Gotta bring it.
Got to bring it.
100%.
Jerry's the man. By the way, you ever see the hill he used to run up?
Yeah.
That thing's crazy.
It is.
He still does that.
He's still an athletic guy.
Crazy.
It is crazy. Jerry, one of the greats.
Hey, so what can I say? Gio, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
you
you
being
so much,
here.
Gio.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, if you guys wanted to check out his Instagram, just follow Coffee Feed on Instagram. really cool page. And again, thank you so much, Gio. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Cheers.
All right. See you on the next episode, guys.